So this is a key to the truth of the Gospels and to the messing around with Scripture that the Greeks had done. Now, the insertion, and it is very clearly an insertion, it is one of 60 third-person insertions in John. It was edited by the Greeks, because when you say a feast day of the Jews, it means you're not a Jew. When you refer to the author of the Gospel as him, it means you're not him.
You would just say what the feast was.
Yes.
You wouldn't say there was a feast of the Jews. That just shows their ignorance.
The Gentiles didn't know what these feasts were. John includes all the feast days, totally unnecessary for the Hebrews. They don't need that. But the Greek readers, it's required for them to understand it.
Right.
But they don't know much about it, so they just simply got some things wrong in their...
Right. But what we have is John 2 and 3, Passover. The next feast he goes up to in John 5 is the Feast of Shavuot. Then we have the next feast, which is the Feast of Sukkot in John chapter 7. Then the next feast that he goes up to is Hanukkah in John chapter 8 through 10.
Right.
And then he comes back at the time of Purim and raises Lazarus from the dead, but neither Purim nor Hanukkah are the feasts of the Lord. These are specified as Jewish feasts. Memorials like our Thanksgiving in America. That is an American feast, but it's a thanksgiving to God. Okay? But the next feast he must go up to, and it shows us, is John chapter 12. Yeshua goes up to Passover, in which he is crucified.
Okay.
All the early church fathers all said Yeshua's ministry was about 1 year. It is one heretic, I will say, in the 4th century who denied 300 years of testimony and said Jesus' ministry was 3.5 years.
And that was the first time that theory was heard of.
That's right. And so what happened at that point is that a feast of the Lord appears in John chapter 6. A feast of the Lord at the feeding of the 5,000 at the end of the summer. We're coming up on fall, and all of the gospel authors record the feeding of the 5,000, but in John, there were words that were added to later Greek text that says, in Passover, a feast of the Jews was nigh. With that Passover, that destroys the 1 year ministry.
It
that
does.
all the early church fathers said. And so then we found manuscripts that John 6:4 is not there at all. It was a forgery that was added in an attempt to lengthen his ministry artificially to come up with a nonsensical, absolutely ridiculous 3.5 year ministry.
Right.
That's where you got involved.
Yes, and the viewer should know that.